Joining us in the studio now is the project lead for the 1 million bin project, which is spearheaded by EcoBank. But before that, President Akufo-Addo's vision of making Accra the cleanest city in Africa has been given a huge boost as banking giant EcoBank rolls out a $10 million project to actualize this vision. It's dubbed the 1 million bin project. 1 million bins are being distributed to households across the country to help in the management of sanitation. The company also launched a payment system where households can electronically pay waste management companies for the refuse collected to ensure a sustainable management of household waste. It's the biggest single contribution to the fight against sanitation so far by any corporate organization in Ghana. The mayor of Accra, Ni Ejei-Soa, expressed concern about the impact of uncontrolled waste management on the environment, especially in the face of the climate change situation.
It's about provision of bins to the households. EcoBank stands for sustainability. Particularly my good self as a climate change activist and a champion in Africa, having conducted studies in Accra over a long period of time and developed a climate action plan for the city of Accra, second in the whole of Africa after Durban. We recognize the fact that cleaning Accra, it is not to enhance the aesthetics of Accra, but also an attempt to combat climate change. 64% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from burning of waste in Accra. It is because many people do not have waste bins. Hence, the provision of waste bins is also an attempt to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, which pollutes our environment and its devastating effects that we see. I call on my colleagues and my good self to make sure that the bins are provided and tax all households to comply by making sure that they contribute by paying the adequate and appropriate rate. Thank you, and may God bless us all.
Deputy Sanitation Minister Michael Jatto called for more private sector support in combating the sanitation crisis facing the country.
Even though government actually voted 246 million this year, 2019, in our budget for WASH, the sector received the highest intervention by way of the provision of water from other bodies. And when you lump that together, our sector had the highest investment in terms of water. And we are still delivering. You talk about Damango water, we talk about Yendi water, and all the interventions under water. So even though our budgetary allocation looks small, we're getting so much underwater. And I want to hasten to add that whilst we're getting so much investment underwater, we are not getting the same investment under sanitation. And the World Bank, per the World Bank research, with every 1 million investment in sanitation, the dividend is about $4. So by EcoBank investing $10 million, EcoBank is giving this country $40 million in assets. We want to take this advantage to encourage the private sector and the banks to actually come into this area. Because the best way for Ghana to survive is to look at our sanitation. By investing in the sanitation sector, we are solving our health problems, and we will do a lot as a country to grow our economy. So I will urge other partners, other banks to emulate the examples of EcoBank, so that at least when we invest in the sanitation sector, we will grow as a country. The president saying that Ghana, and for that matter, Accra, is going to be the cleanest city, impliedly means that the whole country must be clean.
Vice Chairman of Ghana's Parliament's Committee of Environment, Robert Kwesi Amwa, raised concern about the level of indiscipline among Ghanaians, making it difficult to tackle the sanitation problem.
on it, we will achieve it with time. Yeah. Whether you need education, but it rests with the individuals. We need to be educated. We throw the garbage all over the place. Government has done this part. Had it been the government alone, we might have raided there. But our people, we are recalcitrant. We are difficult to accept or adopt the right, do the right thing. We want shortcuts. That is our problem. So when we are properly educated, we will get there. So the rest is with we the citizens. We the citizens, yes. Some people, we behave as spectators. We don't care whatever happens. But if we educate ourselves, peer education, when you meet your friend, if somebody throws something somewhere and you are there, you pick it, draw his attention, you will get there. So we need education. That's the most important thing that we need now. If we are properly educated, we will get there.
Project Lawrence Lai for more on this. But before we start that conversation, we'll hear from the Sanitation Minister. Unfortunately, we are unable to bring you that sound, but then we go straight to Mr. Lai now. Great to have you in studio. Tell us about this project, the scope and the targets.
The 1 Million Bin project is a social intervention project. You will agree with me that we have issues with indiscriminate dumping of waste. In the presentation this morning at the launch, the General Executive Secretary of the Environmental Service Providers Association indicate that as of 2016, only 3.1% of households have access to proper storage, in fact, primary storage facility. And we need to bridge this gap. We need to ensure that households have access to proper storage facility. Now, this is a project that is expected to be nationwide. So we're looking at working with the MMDAs to ensure that the households get access to these waste bins.
So the MMDAs will be distributing the bins?
The MMDAs have service providers operating under their jurisdiction. So the MMDAs will sign on, take the bins, and work with the Environmental Service Association to distribute the waste bins.
Great. And these service providers will be the waste management companies themselves?
Yeah, those are the waste management companies themselves.
But it's not just the bin distribution, is it?
Well, currently we are looking at the bin distribution. You see, but we are supporting it with a technology that will help us to monitor where the bins are. And as the bins are serviced, we want to know when the bins are serviced and what time the bins are picked. So it's a facility that will also be made available to the MMDA so that they can monitor the performance of the service providers.
What's the desired impact from this project?
Well, in fact, these bins are supposed to be given to the households at no cost. What they will basically do is to pay a token registration fee with the service providers, and then they'll get the bins and pay their normal monthly servicing fee. In fact, it is expected that when they get the bins, it will improve our sanitation situation by reducing indiscriminate littering. We want to be able to monitor the service providers to ensure that their service delivery is on point.
So this is sort of a system that does not just end with the distribution of the bins.
No, in fact, it's a system that wouldn't end with, but would also look at how the bins are serviced.
That's how the rubbish is taken from
collected and then sent to the disposal site. Speaking
of disposal sites, we were discussing a bit earlier that the landfill site is currently closed down. And a number of landfill sites here in Accra are being closed because they are full. Given that situation, and I know that it's very important that you look at that, how do we bridge that gap?
Well, I think that there's a need to improve upon this. There's the need to have proper disposal sites. There's the need to have treatment facilities to push this agenda forward. And I think these are areas that some of the environmental service providers are working on, and we believe government is also providing support to ensure that we get there.
So, I mean, how satisfied are you with the support that you've seen from the government agencies and the media and all these other stakeholders in this project?
Well, I want to say that the support has been good. Looking at the participation at the launch this morning, we had a massive presence of government and then the MMDAs. And in fact, they expressed their full support for this project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lyle, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Still live on the Pulse.